The election of Helen Zille as chairperson of Federal Council represents a victory for people in the DA who stand diametrically opposed to my beliefs and value system. And I believe those of most of South Africans of all backgrounds. I cannot reconcile myself with a group of people who believe that race is relevant in the discussion of inequality and poverty in South Africa in 2019. I cannot reconcile myself with people who do not see that South Africa is more unequal today than it was in 1994. I cannot reconcile myself with people who fail to realize that we have a patriotic duty to unseat the ANC and save our country before it is too late. Despite the fact that coalition survived on consultation, shared programs and recognizing the contribution of each member, the DA has criticized and questioned my approach. Despite the DA only winning 38% of the vote in 2016, elements in the party, some, have expected me to govern arrogantly as if I have an outright majority. I have to deal with people who draw the artificial distinctions between service delivery in formal settlements and suburbs as a binary, either or type approach. I've had to deal with individuals who'd rather spend more time on cutting grass than on fixing our broken and aged infrastructure which threatens disaster in our city. I have to deal with people who do not want me to implement the insourcing program that has benefited over 7,000 families and contained contractual costs merely because it was not DA policy. My response to the DA was, then make it your policy. Unfortunately, it is these individuals who have triumphed at yesterday's Federal Council meeting. That is why I have no doubt whatsoever that the collapse of this governance arrangement is a foregone conclusion.
There does come a time when leaders must step back from all noise and conjecture and make a sober and honest assessment as to what the future indeed does hold. And I've spent the last few days doing exactly that alongside with my wife. And in the end, we've come to the conclusion that despite my best efforts, perhaps the DA is not the best vehicle which is suited to take forward the vision of building one South Africa. And therefore, it is with great sadness that in order to continue this fight for the vision I strongly believe in the country I so dearly love, I will today step down as leader of the DA.
All right. Our newsmaker interview continues with John Steenhuisen. A red flag, clearly. If a leader, you yourself, earlier on in the day, you say you supported, you are loyal to him over the years and so on, right? And Herman Mashaba, who has been your shining light, let's face it. I mean, the DA wanted to go to war with the EFF when the EFF said they didn't want Herman Mashaba to be mayor. It's ironic now what has happened, right? So it's not two guys I can dismiss and just say, well, they're just crazy or they're lazy, right? So a red flag in terms of just the mixed messages about race. Herman says, these guys, he summarizes it. Obviously, he didn't go into long detail to say these guys think race is irrelevant. Maybe you haven't said it yourself, but that's how he sums up the approach of the DA. And it goes back to the whole issue that I was raising. Do you think that their message is not simple enough, right, for the voter to understand where they stand with you when it comes to issue of redress?
Sure, and I think that's absolutely a fair criticism, and it is one of the things that was identified in the report and that the review panel conducted was the mixed messaging around the DA.
Yeah.
As we go into this policy conference in April next year, we're hoping to be able to, at the end of that, be able to produce policies which are clear, unambiguous, and which set out very clearly to all South Africans, this is who we are, this is what we're fighting for, and this is what we want to achieve. I disagree with the analysis of Herman. I don't think that there is anybody in the DA who really can honestly stand before anybody and say that race doesn't matter in South Africa. Particularly,
but do you want to pull the plug on the EFF arrangement with him in this?
No, I don't want to pull the plug on the EFF. That was never the. It was never the arrangement, and it was never the resolution of either the report or the Federal Council. That we said we would do some polling on it. I happen to believe that coalitions are the future for government in South Africa, and that we've got to do a lot more to make coalitions work better and work better in the service of the people.
You think you'll make them better? You work better with the EFF in Parliament, sitting side by side?
Well, I think it's in a different environment in Parliament because we're both on the opposition bench.
You're not running any government.
We're not running anything together. I think when you come into a coalition arrangement, that there is some agreement that there are some common objectives which you need to work towards. And yes, even in Parliament, from time to time, when we had the Zuma years, there was a lot of issues where the EFF and the DA came together. You know, we were very strong about them being chucked out of the chamber, the violence that was used. It was us that went to court to stop the police being allowed into the chamber. So I think there is a lot of elements for cooperation. And I think we need a lot more in politics. I don't think it happens enough.
Absolutely.
Including across the aisle between the DA and the ANC, which is one of the things I've said. We've got to stop this tit-for-tat politics because voters are tired of us telling them how bad the ANC are. They want to hear about a good...
I found that interesting because in Parliament you're going to have to tell the ANC how bad they are almost every day. But tell me, in terms of this practical, now if you try and simplify the message, I'm glad that you acknowledge that there's a work to be done in more simplification, right? White businesses are nervous, right? That BEE means that they must give up their businesses, give a chunk of their businesses to politically connected people or whoever else, or black people who didn't work for it, etc. Is there a nervousness on your side that you don't want to, in a sense, alienate the white people who may not understand redress the way you do, or even change for that matter?
Not at all, because I think that anybody who's in business in South Africa must understand that if you can't help the many are poor, you're never going to be able to save the many who are the poor, the few people who are rich. And so that South Africa will sink and swim together, rich and poor. We've got to get an economy that's growing. We've got to make it a more inclusive economy. And you do that by businesses making workers stakeholders in their industries, building a stakeholder capitalism in South Africa that will ensure that workers are actually part of the means of production as well and are given opportunities to own shares in those companies, to be part of the management decisions that starts to change the face of ownership. But what I'm not saying is that we should just white South Africans should just simply give up going into business, or white-owned companies.
They must just partner with black South Africans.
Well, I think that you've got to, it's got to be a stakeholder. And you can't, businesses as well, we must remember, are not charities. They are there to make money and to deliver to shareholders. But I think that there is a social responsibility to ensure that they are working towards building an inclusive South Africa that lifts more people into opportunity. And there are vehicles to do that. And that's why we should be particularly helping small, medium, and micro enterprises being able to get their businesses off the ground, to start up, paying them on time, and ensuring that we're lifting them so that they can employ.
But do you think there is a sense in which there are some of your colleagues who believe that you must just leave white businesses to their own devices? Don't bother them. Don't ask them to meet targets and give up 3% of their profit after tax for training, 1% for social development, etc. Is there a pocket in the DA that may believe that this BEE thing is bothering business, is pissing off investors and so on?
Well, it is, but remember, it's not redress that's doing that. It's BEE in the conception that the ANC made it. So it's the Coke that's making people bloody irritated. We want to develop a Fanta that's going to be palatable for business to be able to drink, and to make it easier to do so.
But why is it taking you 4 years from a policy perspective to get that formulation right? Aren't you really worried that a Mbusi, a Patricia, a Herman, right, live on the basis of exactly what we're discussing now?
Because I don't think the DA has been prepared to have honest conversations about race, and I think that time is now here. And that's the era that I would...
That's quite a serious admission there.
Honest conversations about it. And we must understand where we as a liberal democratic party fit in with race and our view on individual identity trumping group identity. And we must grapple with these things. But JJ, for any party to not be grappling with the inequality that still exists is a party that's on the fast track to a very quick death in South Africa. 10 million people unemployed, millions more locked out of poverty, communities living in fear, children living in schools where they're not being educated. We're standing on a burning platform. And if we don't address that, then the radicalism of parties on the far left and the far right are going to start to prevail. And that's when the real problems are going to start.
Interesting perspective there, Johnny Steenhuisen. Let's see what people say. Come in. What are people saying on social media there? Come in.
JJ, of course, let's take a look at some of the questions coming in thick and fast. So Spiwe here asking what kind of a leader who's unaccountable, who blocks every black person on Twitter, who's critical of him. And a question here saying, as the DA interim leader, does he think Musi was right to ask about funders of Ramaphosa's campaign? Will he reveal his own and the DA's donors? Let's take a look at another one now. Anonymous on WhatsApp saying, Mr. Steenhuisen, do you realize that there's still a prevalence of economic white privilege? If yes, what's the DA doing about it? The second question, what's the DA doing to reconcile the historical racial divisions perpetuated by whites in South Africa? And thirdly, do you believe that blacks need to get back their land? And how can this be done? Of course, I don't think anyone's going to get away without answering that land question, JJ. No. Kanyisa here saying, as a young black South African and entrepreneur, I've been struggling to get permission from the city of Cape Town to establish his business on municipal land. They intended to stop us from black economic growth by charging us ridiculous prices utilizing land that they own in the township. What is the DA going to do to help young black entrepreneurs in their municipalities to be able to easily get trade licenses and acquire land to be able to establish those businesses? Essay indeed, JJ. Here's another short essay, Sammy from Pretoria, saying, please ask the DA leader, John Steenhuisen, to be honest, nothing else. He resigned from Chief Whip, preparing to take over leadership. Nothing to do with this. Since Musi resigned, my term ends. Also, he's not a sellout. Musi performed badly. He must also take responsibility. And then Terence here saying, will the DA continue to work with the allegedly corrupt EFF in the city of Joburg? Coming in from Mandla there. So, JJ, plenty of questions and essays to go through.
Plenty. All right. We'll try.
Questions with that.
Believe me, I'm soft compared to, it's not easy to be tough when somebody's in front of you like this, Tell me, the issue of this whole EFF thing, quickly just deal with that. The question there is whether, in your view as new leader now, you think that we can finish the term, the remaining term, in the coalition with the EFF. Coalition, whatever, informal or informal, cooperation with them.
Well, I suppose that's going to depend on what the EFF decide to do.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're going to field a new candidate for mayor.
Yeah.
And it's going to be important to see how they react to that particular person. We are the largest of the opposition parties, then we believe we've got the right to be able to put the mayor on.
Yeah.
And obviously we want to have those discussions with the EFF.
Yes.
I don't think we want to hand Joburg back to the ANC and to throw it to the wolves. So we're going to be doing what we need to do to try and keep that relationship moving forward until such time as the processes of the party decide otherwise.
Okay.
But we remain committed to that particular process.
All right. I have to take a break now. After the break, we carry on. We'll answer some of the questions and round off our conversation with you. Thank you so much for agreeing to stay on some more. The leader has agreed to stay on some more. So we're going to take headlines quickly with Carmen and then come back to round off that conversation. Remember, tonight, Themba Maseko, former GCIS CEO, is my guest on the Frank interview tonight. So do stay tuned for that conversation that will start at 10:15.